College football 26 is right around the corner, set to release. If you have early access, I think as early as Monday. And today I want to go over, based on the videos that we've seen from content creators, based on information that has been shared, the top recruiting tips I have before college football 26 releases. Like, obviously, as we dig deep into the game, a lot of this stuff may be a little different or maybe more refined, but from what I've seen, I have some tips to get you started in scouting. So let's get into it. The first item I have here is scouting is actually less important this year, and you need to focus on archetypes instead. So there are a lot of new archetypes. Quarterbacks, let's just talk about quarterbacks, for example. Backfield creator, which is kind of, replacing improviser from 25. Pure runner, which is scrambler. Dual threat, which is like a kind of a hybrid between scrambler and field general. And then pocket passer, which is still in the game, that replaces field general. There's a lot more. Elusive bruiser for running back, north-south blocker, east-west playmaker, backfield threat, north-south receiver, contact seeker for receiver, speedster, elusive route runner, physical route runner, gritty possession. I mean, there's just a ton of them. I just want to read a couple on defense here. Gap specialist for defensive tackle, physical freak, power rusher, speed rusher. Those are pretty much the same. And then from the linebacker position or edge, or even, you have edge setter, power rusher, physical freak, lurker, thumper, signal caller, a whole lot of archetypes. They're going to tell a lot about, what type of player you're recruiting. And I will talk about this throughout this video, but now that the transfer portal is a lot more open now, you basically have a slider to dictate how many players can transfer away. Players are more likely to transfer away. Something to keep at the top of your mind when going after recruiting. But let's just talk about like certain archetypes. So for example, the route runner archetype in college football 25, it was actually absolutely terrible, because I actually probably never recruited a guy that was a route running archetype and been able to actually play him on the field. This year, they have different archetypes that actually matter as far as route runner. It's not all about speed this year, even though it slightly is. I want to give you a screenshot here of Antoine Rooks off of Bordeaux's video about Dynasty with the Ball State Cardinal. And just look at Antoine Rooks for a quick second. He's a physical route runner archetype, one of those new archetypes. But this is key. Speed at 90, acceleration 92. So he's got good speed right away, but look at the rest of the attributes. 81 catching, 83 catching traffic, 89 spectacular catching, 83 short, 79 medium, 78 deep, and 84 release. I mean, that is a amazing base, and he is a 4-star prospect, by the way. His mentals are roller coaster, physical abilities, press pro, and 50-50. I mean, this is a prototypical receiver. You can pretty much play everywhere on the field. He does not have a weakness. And to add on top of that, he starts out with really, really good speed and good acceleration. And one thing that you shouldn't, just keep in your mind is that these archetypes do progress differently, and they do actually require a different amount of skill points to upgrade based on their archetype. So for this guy, for example, route running may be a lot cheaper than, maybe he's a physical guy. Maybe his physical attributes are kind of a little tougher to upgrade. It's just something to keep in mind when you are thinking about upgrading, and recruiting some of these guys without scouting them. Another thing to keep in mind, though, with doing this is that, quarterbacks are interesting, because now there is a dual threat quarterback. Those are kind of the guys that are going to be sought after. So let's just take a look at Dominic Maggot, for example, a dual threat quarterback, 93 throw power. So without scouting this guy, you actually know he's going to be a good runner as it is. You're probably going to want to just fill up your board and just go after him, because dual threat quarterbacks are going to have pretty good arms. They're going to be mobile, and improving their accuracy is going to be a lot lower. Now, I want to translate that to maybe a pocket passer that we see here in Bordeaux's video, and that's Ronnie Townsend. Now, Ronnie Townsend is interesting because he is a guy that's a pocket passer, 3-star prospect, ranked 844. Now, pocket passers are not mobile. However, now that you can upgrade players manually, which we'll get into the next point, you can eventually upgrade their speed. So now these guys that are pocket passers may be more valuable because they're really good throwers of the football early on in their career. And then you can progress that speed up to obviously their skill cap, because every player has different skill caps. You definitely want to make sure to take advantage of that. So let's talk about the next point here, and it's really turn on manual progression. I cannot emphasize why this is important in every single way. So now in the game, you have the ability to turn on manual progression instead of auto, which it was a year ago. If you look at this setting here, you can see this is kind of what this is at its core. So basically, when you turn on manual progression, you have the ability to upgrade players manually. But there is also a manual progression XP penalty, which basically says that there may be a penalty based on if you are progressing players manually. So that is basically if XP is earned at a certain rate when there's auto progression on, it's going to be reduced if you have manual progression on. So obviously you want this on, and you can turn this all the way to 0, which is what Bordeaux did during this video, and that will just allow you to get, the maximum amount of XP, and then you can obviously manually upgrade players as is. Now, if you are a rebuilder like me that likes to keep it realistic, 25 I believe is the default. You kind of want to keep it around there or even more for more of a challenge, and it will basically prohibit you from basically taking advantage of the game and just upgrading everybody to anything you want, getting the max amount of XP. I definitely agree that it should be on, but there should be probably a penalty slider with that is set to either the default or maybe something higher. A quick example here is this quarterback that he had, I believe it was in his 4th season in this rebuild, Devin Madu, who was a 3-star development trait quarterback when he recruited him. He is a pocket passer archetype. Now, this is the off-season training. Take a look at him. He was 77 overall when Bordeaux started upgrading his attributes. And then Bordeaux just tried to have fun with it here. Just upgrade a lot of his speed and IQ just to see what he could do. And he ended up going up from like 70, mid-70 speed up to 92 speed at the end of it. It was just crazy. And that's the thing with this manual progression. You can build players the way you want to build them, and every player is going to kind of be different. You can choose a different path for how you want to develop different players. One thing I want to point out though is that upgrading speed and quickness is the hardest attributes to upgrade. So you want to keep that in mind. So for quarterbacks, maybe accuracy is like the easiest. Maybe for blocking, maybe like footwork would be the easiest for offensive linemen. Like things like that. Things that improve like awareness or overall may be easier to upgrade just over every position than maybe the physical stuff will be to upgrade. But if you do want to just disable manual upgrades, you can do that. You can actually do like a hybrid of both. You can manually upgrade during off season and then hit triangle to automatically upgrade the rest of your team. So you can kind of do both if you don't want to do everything manually. So number 3 tip I have here in this list is transfer portals are important and they can train in the Dynasty. So when you do recruit transfer portal players, like last year, they will be on your roster at the point of training, but this year they will actually progress. So you will get those skill points to be able to upgrade them. That is a big change going from 25 to 26, mostly because now recruiting in the regular season, you might just have a strategy of getting certain guys that you want from high school and then might hit the portal hard and be able to still have the advantage of progressing those portal players on your roster when you first get them. So for example, let's just say you get a big portal quarterback and maybe he's a younger underclassman quarterback, so maybe a freshman or sophomore, he's going to get a lot of skill points probably early on in his career just based on where he's at as far as development trait and age, and guys do develop more when they are younger. And you might be able to recruit this guy to your team and be able to still progress him as if you had him on your roster as like a redshirt freshman or a redshirt sophomore, whatever it is. You still get that ability now. And that is huge because transfer portal teams, such as, let's just say, like a Colorado who is living in the portal, this is actually very, very advantageous because now maybe recruiting from high school isn't as important now. Obviously, it depends on just your strategy around recruiting, but now portal players can train. So the fourth thing I have on this list is worry about speed now and skills later. I talked about this earlier, and I do want to emphasize this. One thing to remember is that when you do recruit, it's more expensive to upgrade your players eventually for their physical attributes than it is for their actual abilities. Let me just break that down for you. It's harder to upgrade speed and quickness than it is for a receiver to upgrade his catching and route running, or it's easier to upgrade a quarterback's throw accuracy than it is to upgrade their maybe throw power or their speed and quickness. That is something to remember. So if you find a guy that has a very high arm strength, for example, let's just say he's a quarterback, he's maybe a scrambler, has a very strong arm but not a lot of accuracy, his skill caps will still prohibit some things, but you might want that guy over somebody that's got a weaker arm and higher accuracy because accuracy is a lot cheaper to upgrade. So as you play him, as you get more skill points in off-season training, it may be more advantageous to, get those physical freaks first and then upgrade their skills later. So just keep that in mind during recruiting. The fifth thing I have on this list is proximity to home and play style matter the most. I want to say the most with an asterisk though, because playing time is still very important. If you have a open position and you're recruiting a guy and you know he's going to play there, you still want to play those guys. But honestly, as you get deeper in a dynasty, you do want to make sure that if you do recruit depth at a position, that you're playing guys you know will play and you want to keep long term. And for the guys that don't really fit into the long-term plan, it's okay to have them as backups, but you need to recruit guys that you want to stash within your roster. You want to make sure that they have proximity to home or play style so that they do stick around, because if you do have a guy on your bench, those guys will eventually transfer if you do not meet their deal breaker. But if you have proximity to home, for example, if you're Ball State in this example here and you're recruiting a player within Indiana, it's easier to keep those guys and retain those guys with the proximity to home deal breaker because they're not going to leave. They're already close to home. Playing time does not matter as much. Play style does not matter as much. All the other ones don't matter as much. It's all about just staying close to home, and you're not going to move, so they're going to stay. And that is very, very important. Play style also does matter. I kind of rank that second on my list because really, if you are a team that throws the ball a lot, well, you're going to get X amount of receptions, and receivers that do focus on that playing style will stick around if you're a spread option team. That's going to be big for you. However, for defensive players, for example, if play style is a big deal breaker for an edge rusher, you better make sure you have a good pass rusher or a good pass rush in general. You're getting sacks, because if you're not getting sacks, those players are just not going to stick around. So it's definitely something to pay attention to. Like, play style is going to matter more than maybe any other deal breaker, because the players are going to be paying attention to what the other positions on their team, other players at their position, I should say, are doing. And are they going to stick around? Yes or no? It all depends on your production. So you definitely want to just pay attention to that. The last item on this list is Gadget wide receivers are the best offensive archetypes. And let me explain here. I want to give you an example of Quentin Barmore in Bordeaux's stream. He is a Gadget wide receiver, a freshman, 6'2", 194. He's got good size, 89 speed. Now, if you look at all of the positions he could possibly go to, he is a 68 overall wide receiver as a Gadget wide receiver. But he could upgrade to a 70 overall tight end, a 74 overall quarterback, and a 76 east-west playmaker archetype for a running back. That is crazy progression just for changing his position. These guys are going to be valuable because you never know. You could recruit a Gadget wide receiver and he could be your quarterback of the future. Now, I imagine that if you do change these players over to wide receiver, or over to quarterback, I should say, their skill caps will not be high. I bet that will be the case. But if it's not, you could potentially build a monster at quarterback. Now, this would probably matter a lot more for power spread offenses, or offenses that kind of prioritize the option. That could be a choice there. But these Gadget wide receivers could end up being quarterbacks of the future in this game. So that is definitely a archetype that you do want to recruit and definitely want to take advantage of. They can also be awesome running backs. And then obviously they have the receiver skills. So with auto subs this year, you can also put them in the slots or out wide, whatever it means that you want in your offense. The possibilities are endless with the Gadget wide receiver. They also have that Gadget depth chart position. So I think these guys are just going to be pretty amazing in this game. So that's going to do it for the scouting tips to know before College Football 26 releases. Can't wait to get my hands on the game, and I can't wait for all of you guys to tune into my series this year. If you're new to the channel, make sure to tune into my Dynasty. I always have one every year. This one is going to be a whole lot of fun. Can't wait to get into it. But stay tuned to this channel. Hit subscribe, hit that like button. Stay tuned. Let's get it. Let's go.